Your friends call you, they tempt you. You have a party. You can either sit home alone or you can call me. Say, Amir, do you mind if I come over? No. Now, why do you want to come over? You want to come over because you don't want to fall victim to temptation. Good for you that you're aware of that. And you need to come to my house, to my office, to my classes every single day for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years until something about you begins to change in a very, very, very profound way. And then when you look at your friends, you realize you have absolutely nothing in common with them. They were good to be around at some point in your life, but that point is far gone. Now you walk away. You don't care. In fact, you delete their numbers from your phone. You're far too blind to be able to overcome anything. You need help, and that help needs to come from the outside. The best example, become familiar with the life story of Mike Tyson when he was a young kid. He had nothing. He was very, 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 very lucky and fortunate to find a coach that was attracted to him, liked him, treated the young fighter like a son. But he was never really able to get rid of his anger, which was caused by a certain traumatic events. And eventually life seasoned him to some extent. So again, the point is you can't get rid of any habits on your own. Seek help from the outside. But the thing about seeking is most often you're going to look for people who think like you, feel like you, and smell like you. Don't seek them out. There's a scene in the movie Zorro, Anthony Hopkins and Antonio Banderas. He's no longer a kid. He's sitting in a bar. He wants to drink some beer or wine. And he doesn't have any money, but he wants to sell this necklace that he has. But this necklace was given to him by Zorro when he was 5 years old. When, this kid was only 5. And Zorro by this time is an old man. And he says to this young man that, why the hell would you want to sell this beautiful necklace for a mug of beer? And then Antonio looks at him and says, this is Zorro. And in the movie, Antonio Banderas has a brother whose head was chopped off by the soldier. So Anthony Hopkins, the Zorro, takes him into, this training ground, and he says, there are 3 circles, on the necklace that you're wearing as you become more and more proficient in the art of swordsmanship. You come a step closer to the center of the necklace. And then Antonio Banderas says, Captain Love, I want to kill him. Captain Love does not exist. The only person that exists for you in body, in mind, and in soul is me, no one else. Captain Love right now is a distraction. Your hatred towards Captain Love is a distraction. You must submit your body, mind, emotions to me and me alone. And of course, the movie doesn't tell us all the stuff that happens psychologically. And eventually his love for this old man, Zorro, grows, and he becomes really, really good. And he becomes even better than Zorro. And then near the end of the movie, Captain Love and this young Zorro fight. And Captain Love is no match. Eventually he gets his ass whooped. And the point I'm trying to make is the following. The old Zorro educates the to-be Zorro. And it's difficult. Because the to-be Zorro has all these bad habits that need to be overcome. And then near the movie, end of the movie again, the old Zorro looks at him and says, you no longer need me. All the good stuff that Zorro used to have now live inside you. Go do whatever. And then you have Zorro 1 and Zorro 2 and Zorro 3 and Zorro 4. And what's the function of a Zorro? Like any superhero, in times of crisis, they go and help. Point is, If any of you in this class have any bad habits, reading books is good. It's not going to go very far. Talking with your friends is good. It's not going to go very far. Watching to YouTube sages or wisdom teachers is good. It's not going to take you very far. You need someone living, quacking in your life who will beat you up intellectually, emotionally, psychologically to get you out of all the awful ways you think about yourself and life. And there's a good chance that you will say yes, and then when the real tests and teachings come about, you'll just walk away. Why? Even if you have bad habits, even if they cause you pain, you are comfortable in it. Why? You know what pains you're dealing with. Let's say one of you in this class just don't like your father, don't like your mother. Fine, I'm sure you have your reasons. And you're tired of just having hate, anger inside you that expresses itself in all sorts of nasty ways. Makes you restless, homeless, homesick. You don't like, you hate, you're angry, you don't want to be, but it gives you meaning. It tells you who you are. You know who the villain is, and you know who made your life a mess. Even though you don't like to be alone, you're used to it. You have flings here and then, but you go home eventually, alone. You'll try to overcome, but then you'll fall back. It's comfortable. It's always comfortable falling back into bad habits. So find someone who can pull you out. There's a good chance you will abuse the hell out of this person. They want to educate you, you'll say yes, then you'll say no. Then you'll say yes, then you say no. It's a yo-yo syndrome. And if the person you're working with really likes you and is willing to just sacrifice his or her time and energy and life for you, there's a chance of you being saved. Most often, people eventually end up where they've always been. So even though all of us in this class desire change, for about 99.9% of us, it'll never happen. You can have the desire, it'll just never become applicable. I wanted to do something about healing trauma, but let me save that for Thursday, hopefully. Let me just put this on the board. This is the point of your birth, and this is the point of your death. And it's a horizontal line. Things happen naturally. Your parents watch TV. You become attracted to the images. You play video games. You go to school. Your friends contaminate you. Your teachers tell you what books to read, what books not to read. You come to class. You're socialized. This is a world where you're socialized. You'll do the best you can to survive, and then you die. You don't really have to reflect or think too much down here. Things, for the most part, are done for you. Your mom or your dad do something, you don't like it, you're angry for the rest of your life. You take an instructor, you feel as if he or she has offended you, you'll never take their class ever again. That's how things are. This is your physical birth. That'll give you some emotions. It'll give you some components to think about, so you can kind of get to this destination, will eventually come naturally, death, in a relatively peaceful way. There is this other line. This is the birth of reflective intellect, reflective emotions, and reflective soul, or spirit. This is not part of life. This you need to be trained for. This goes against life. Hating, fear, these are natural things that happen to us. Addiction is part of this world. You're born, you see your dad smoke, you become a smoker. To not smoke, you have to go a path that your family has never taught you. This is going to require effort, awareness, mindfulness, and you're going to fall again and again and again and again until you're able to stand. So just in case once in a while you wrestle with something that seems to be a little difficult, it's because you're trying to grow emotionally, intellectually, and psychologically. And whenever you want to grow psychologically, emotionally, intellectually, even spiritually, you have no choice but to go against life. And this is no different than therapy. For those of you in this class who've ever been to a therapist's office, you have a certain feeling about some things, and they try to do what? Take you out of your emotions, have you see those emotions, and hopefully change. Yeah. The best piece of advice I ever got was 0. I think from the moment you're born, your parents give you advice. You know, advice comes in a variety of different ways. Let's just say, you don't pick up after yourself. Your mom, even though exhausted, she comes and she cleans the table. It's your mess, but she does it. And once in a while, she looks your direction to see if you're watching her. That's a piece of advice. It's unspoken, but she's trying to teach you something. The other is your parents sit you down and talk to you about things. But you see, when someone gives you a piece of advice, what you need to consider is the following. Imagine you ask me, Amir, should I go with A or B? Should I go out with person A or person B? You're 20, I'm 60. I know the difficulties of making money. I know the difficulties of relationships. These are worlds that are foreign to you. You may hear what I'm saying, but there's a good chance you will never understand because you lack the experience. You lack the proper relationship with time, with suffering, with pain, with mistakes. You know, the prodigal son story that comes from the Gospel of Luke, it's really the story of just all human beings. We have no choice but to ultimately dismiss all the wise things that people tell us. How many times do I have to come to class and tell my students, do your assignments? Is it really because I think that these assignments are important? No. Do I really think it's because you know how to think? No. Is it because I think that you know how to write? No. I know you're young. And when you're young, you don't have the capacity to think well, to reflect well, to process things well. You have some emotional nonsense going inside and you think them to be valuable, and they're not. The only thing I care for is, listen, you're young. Don't delay your graduation. You're young. Don't waste your time. You know why I say that to you? Because I wasted my time. But you hear, but you don't listen. And even if you were to hear and listen, I doubt very much you're able to make them applicable. So what happens to you? You come to class, you raise your hand, you ask some nonsensical questions, and then you think, well, I've done my job, then you go home. And then comes Sunday, it's time to submit your assignment, and you say, nah, it's okay. I'll say I'd lend you another extra year. I'm still young, I have time. My advice has always been from day one, the very first day of this class, I don't care if you like me. I don't care if you like this class. I want you to do the assignments and graduate from Laney. Leave Laney. Go to a bigger, better school. What do? Nothing. I mean, that's a habit you need to overcome. Thinking that you have time. You have energy. You're always going to remain young. I don't want to give you advice about how to be a better human being. Graduate from this place called Laney. Go to a better place. You don't listen. Why? It's not even your fault. If you were 5 and this was the Middle East or India, I would probably do what it's most common back home, at least used to be. I'd call your mom. She never comes to class. She doesn't do any assignments. I'd probably get a ruler and smack you on the shoulder. Because the truth is, without fear, you're not going to get anywhere, but you need to have the right fear. Let me just say one last thing. You know why you don't do the assignments? You don't really respect me. You don't really care what I think of you and how I think of you. There's a good chance maybe you don't respect any elders in your community. And if you do, it's only a lip service. Do you really think I'm going to spend the next few years of my life trying to educate you? No. I've always mentioned I'm a stepping stone. Finish this class and go to bigger, better classes. No, you just want to get stuck. Okay? And you'll be like a lot of my students. I see them 10, 15, 20 years later. What are you doing at Laney? I'm finishing my AA. AA? I thought you were finished with your AA 50 years ago. Yeah, things happened. What the hell happened? Yeah, I was walking and then I got lost. And now you see them limping. They're blind. They can't hear. Yeah.
I wanted to backtrack. When you went over that, it made me think of racism. I think that hatred is only manufactured because people are named. Or
I think anything that has a value demands a great amount of study, sacrifice, and effort to make it right. Look, I go to a party, I see a woman, I'm a heterosexual man. I see a woman out there, or maybe a man, and I look at their face, and they're just unattractive. My body, my eyes tell me unattractive. I may even want to go somewhere and throw up because of how ugly they are. Okay? I mean, instinctually my body says yuck. Now, if your question is, how do you overcome this? Well, first I have to pay attention to my body. It's saying yuck. I have to have some concept of justice, fairness, that don't judge a book by its cover. Walk to this person. Have a chat with this person. And even if your eyes look at them and you want to throw up, hold the throw up within. Engage in a conversation. Maybe they have a beautiful mind. How the hell do you know? Ask about their life. Even if their mind is also ugly, ask them. So there is this party, 50 people here. Everybody is talking to someone. You're the only one who has no one to talk to. Why do you think that is? And if they're open, trusting, let me say, well, it may be because I'm just not very attractive. And then you say, well, how does that make you feel? Do you try to read books to at least compensate? To have a beautiful mind and not such a beautiful body? Kind of like Socrates. Socrates was a hideous looking human being, but intellectually, spiritually, he was divine. The point I'm trying to make is it's never easy. It's never easy to look at another who is different and say, okay, I'll accept him. I mean, talk about the current dilemma that the West faces, especially America, about gender issues, about sexuality issues, identity issues. I mean, you're talking about a Puritan country. You're talking about Christianity being the cornerstone of this country. You're talking about parents who by nature, the moment they birth a child, they have hopes and dreams. They want their life to be somewhat stable. And then you have a kid who's born. Whether they're faking it or whether they're authentic, who the hell knows? Right? Now, they want to figure out who they are. It's the right of everyone. And eventually, at the age of 20 or 30, they go to their parents and say, Mom, Dad, I'm gay. Mom, Dad, I'm this. Mom, Dad, I'm that. Well, damn it. Your mother has been living with this narrative for 20 years. Now you're destroying the story. What is she going to do? Love you? She needs some time to process all this stuff. And let's say you've lived as a heterosexual human being. And all of a sudden you realize, well, you're not hetero at all. Well, now you have to get rid of the hetero narrative and adopt a different narrative. This takes time to process. And by the time everything is processed, there is anger, there is disgust, there is violence, there is hatred. It just takes time. Is racism good? No. Is bigotry good? No. Like anything else in life. Are these things easy to overcome? Hell no. I mean, take the Gospels. He has 12 disciples, right? Supposedly. Is there porn in that culture? No. Is there technology? No. Is there like traveling everywhere? No. Nobody goes anywhere. People are simple. They have simple lives. Social construct, simple. Mental construct, simple. Everybody's religious. This guy comes forth and says, listen, instead of doing the letter of the law, can we do the spirit of the law? He doesn't deal with gender issues. He doesn't deal with sex issues. He doesn't deal with racism issues. None of those things. Simple stuff. Just come follow me. Do as I do. Do as I say. No one can. Today, if you're 18, you got to figure out who you are, what your purpose is, if there's a soul, if there's a God. It's just too much, man. And so the rest of us have to put up with somebody else's confusion for the right or the wrong reasons. Ultimately, what I'm trying to point out is whenever you find wrinkles in any part of life, ironing out those wrinkles is time-consuming and it's problematic. It just takes time. You know.
What I always, whenever we picture something in time, it takes time. This thing takes time. I understand like the passage of time, like what does that really do? Does it just marinate and slowly just fades?
But when I say it takes time, I mean your parents put you into a piano class and you keep practicing every single day for 5 years. Not just time passing and you never looking at the piano. Time passes, but while time is passing, you're at the piano every day for about 2-3 hours, reading notes, practicing sheets of music. And after about 5 years, now you're good. Time has marinated. The time and practice and dedication, sacrifice, devotion. This time is not going to do anything on its own.
I meant like when you don't have to put in like a lot of effort.
Oh, you're not going to get anywhere.
No. I mean like the opposite of like trying to learn something. Like if I'm in love with something and I have to like why does it fade away? Like is it just because it just don't think about it? I don't know. I think that might be just a very simple question.
I can't say that I understand the question fully, but I'll tell you this. I wanted to be a soccer pro. I fell out of love. I wanted to be a tennis pro. I fell out of love. I wanted to be a boxer. I fell out of love. I wanted to be a professor. I fell out of love. I wanted to be married. I fell out of love. I wanted to be a father. That's what time does. As you move into different stages of your psychological growth, things that used to be interesting no longer are. How it happens, I don't really know. Maybe it's part of external forces. You surround yourself with different people. Maybe it's just very organic. You know, you suck the marrow out of a certain thing, it's no longer as interesting or attractive.
Passion, like, I don't have the language to ask this question.
I apologize for not having covered Thursday. I promise. Yeah.
Oh, I like lost my track. And it's
Anyone else? Yeah.
Going back to the ugly girl,
Sure.
it kind of reminds me of instinct, right? Are you saying that sometimes it's a good thing to go against you? As such a physical reaction to one who thought you're automatically unattracted to the person, but you're going against the physical instinct, you're approaching this person. And then now you ask them, why do you think you're alone? I'm ugly. Now they're attracted to that self-awareness.
Right.
Are you saying that's good? Is that necessary?
Well, it really depends on your degree of empathy, sympathy, curiosity, and interest. At my age, if I was to see someone ugly over there, I'm just going to walk the other way. I don't have time. I'm not curious about that. I'm curious about other things. You know, I'm not going to spend my time making someone feel good. You're ugly, it's too bad for you. You know. The other thing is, you know, sometimes you walk around the lake and there are lots of unattractive people holding hands with other unattractive people. So there is always someone out there who can love you. I don't want to force myself to like you or love you. I value my time. Maybe that's a bad way to do business. I don't really know. Yeah.
how much do you think like, time of today with finding something that's ugly? This is what I was going to ask about social media affecting young people and like, the standard it says for some people, like looking at like manufactured pictures and like whatever, especially like young like females. How much? Lost my train of thought.
Look, I think when you watch football, there's a thing called blitz, that you have the opposing team all of a sudden like a hurricane attacking the quarterback, and the quarterback gets frustrated, gets anxious, and sometimes fumbles, you know, he can't do his job right. I think what you have is when you go to Yahoo and the first thing that comes up is Kim Kardashian, and then you go to MSNBC and the first thing that comes up is Kim Kardashian, and then when you turn on the TV, the first thing that comes up is Kim Kardashian. What you have is a blitz. Behind closed doors, what happens is you attack people, assault people with a face or a body or both that creates certain desires. And people enjoy desires that are positive because positive desires equal pleasure. And whenever you do anything that gives you pleasure, you forget the past, you forget the future, you live in the present. You need to understand how devastating this is. Pleasure forces you into the present. Next time any of you are in the bedroom with a person that you don't know too much, you don't like too much, but you enjoy the sex, okay? Do whatever you want to do. And when you are done, all of a sudden something happens. You say, The hell am I doing here? This is nonsense. I hate myself for doing this. And then when you're done, you say, you know, I just realized my dog has not eaten for 5 days. I need to rush home. And your companion says, I didn't know you had a dog. Well, I don't, but I think I want to have one right now. So you put on your clothes and you just run away. And that's what pleasure is. It blinds you. You know. And so when you, as a young person, when you live in an environment that, first of all, is fast-paced, you know, fast-paced, it means that if you want to become good at anything, you have to go slow. You have to be dedicated. You have to be devotional. You have to make sacrifices. You know, you go on a plane and you send someone a text, it takes 10 minutes to be delivered. You say, God damn it, 10 minutes, too long. You're near the moon. The hell do you expect? You know, if you go to third world countries, especially somewhere like Iran or India, you get into traffic. From here to the zoo, right now, if you go, it takes you about 10 minutes. If you go to the certain parts of the Middle East, from here to the zoo, it takes you 5 hours. People just know how to survive traffic. Here, no. And the point I'm trying to make is that when you live in a fast-paced culture and these beautiful images are attacking you, assaulting your psyche every goddamn minute, the idea that you want to be a seeker after beauty, you want to simmer, you want to cook slowly, it's impossible. If I tell you, Joaquin, you need to stay with me, be diligent, be slow for the next 10 years. 10 years? Are you kidding? I've never spent 10 years with anything in my life. I have to teach you how to be patient, but then you're going to go nuts. It's just very complicated. Yeah. Can you ask another question, people? You've been reprimanded. Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm going to remember this now. This is kind of a weird question, but
Sure.
what are the privileges of being underprivileged, or rather, like the benefits of being underprivileged and the negatives of being privileged?
It's too much. All I will say to you is the following. If you've had some anger issues with your father, for example, and you're just very angry and you've been angry for the past maybe 5 or 6 or 10 years, anger gives you a good amount of power. Right now you sit there very respectfully, you're meek, you're sincere. All of a sudden I say something. What I say goes somewhere inside you, pushes a button. That button takes you all the way back to when your father said ABC to you, right? Now, remember what happens when you're angry. Usually when you're in control, you have privilege. You have power over your mind, you have power over your body, you have power over your emotions. You're calm. When things become frustrating, and remember, anger is like anything else in life. It goes through steps. So here you are and you want to get there. And you assume that it's going to take you 5 seconds. Okay? You go there is traffic. You get frustrated. Then you become anxious. Then you say, what the hell is happening? You go through confusion. Then there is disgust. Okay? All these are ripples. And then, after 20 minutes, you become angry. Then, anger, if you're not careful, turns into rage. And God forbid if rage takes a physical component. Now, what you have is violence. The point is, this gives you a tremendous amount of power. Now, you stand up and you raise your voice. You don't raise your voice because you have power. You raise your voice because you're weak. And every time you're weak, you scream. and you've been screaming for most of your life. Now I say, oh my God, Joaquin is screaming at me. He's probably going to go to my boss. He's going to file a complaint. I may be fired. Now, your weakness, scream comes out, anger blossoms, you're enraged, and now I am cornered. I say, oh, Joaquin, I really apologize. I didn't really mean that. What the hell is going on? Please accept my apologies. So remember, whenever you're angry, especially if your anger comes from the wrong place, and we'll talk about all those things perhaps next time, because we're going to talk about moods and feelings and emotions and trauma and how to overcome all of them, especially if they're negative. Because some traumas are really, really good, but mostly they're bad.
Just give one example.
Yes, a positive trauma is when Malcolm X meets Elijah Muhammad. A positive trauma is when Mahatma Gandhi gets thrown out of a train. A positive trauma is when the young, arrogant Plato runs into Socrates.
So it's not, what's another word for trauma?
Trauma is an event that changes the entire chemistry of who and what you are.
Are there traumas with different, it's not positive or negative?
No,
There's only positive.
there is only positive and negative. I'm a black and white sort of a fellow. Do's and don'ts. I don't care about the gray. Gray are for professionals. You improvise when you're really, really good.
Did you go to college?
No, I'm uneducated. Thank you. My apologies on his behalf. I apologize. So take good care. See you Thursday.